Canadian memories fade over foreign interference. This is the Great White North Report. Hey, welcome back to the channel. How many Canadians still remember the scandal that shocked Parliament last spring when it turned out that there was a lot of foreign interference in our elections? Canadians, we have short-term memory loss. I don't know, maybe we've taken too many concussions in the head from playing hockey. I really don't know. I've actually wrote to several MPs asking why they're not doing this, Liberal and Conservative and NDP, and I got one response from Paliv's office, but that was more of a generic one, and from the Member of Parliament for Elgin. I can't remember her name. She said there's not much the Conservatives can do because the Liberals don't want the list out there. But anyway, unnamed parliamentarians have been compromised by foreign states has slipped off Ottawa's radar. Of course, they're all worried now that Poilievre is trying to force a new election. The majority of Canadians do not want Trudeau in power. He is holding on to power, even though he knows his party is badly losing. And also the Canadian Parliament is hamstrung by the fact that they still want to yip about what's going on in the Middle East. So there's unnamed MPs or senators are possibly being compromised, perhaps even consciously by foreign states. Fears raised by a startling but opaque report by the National Security and Intelligence Committee of Parliamentarians. And it's totally true. It happens. The U.S. have their own problems in their own elections with foreign interference because we have democratic elections. They don't have this type of interference in Russia or China because, let's face it, in Russia, Putin controls the elections, and in China, the Communist Party controls the elections. There are no other parties. India, there's probably a ton of foreign interference, but India has got such a fractured democratic system with so many parties that it's hard to tell. The UK probably, all the Western democracies probably go through this to some extent. I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of Middle East oil money comes into our elections. It definitely into our schools. So allegations that MPs knowingly received help from a foreign government are deeply disturbing. NDP MP Alistair McGregor said no one with those interests in mind should be sitting in this House of Commons. And he's quite right, I agree. They should be thrown out. Thrown out of their... But you got to prove this stuff, eh? You got to prove if they knowingly did it or not. Because if you just slander somebody, it could backfire and you'd be in court. They could sue the government. I think it's up to our intelligence services to find out exactly and then go to the court. One MP, Michael Chung, said members who willingly, knowingly, or wittingly assisted foreign government to the detriment of the members of this place and their privileges, as well as to the interests of candidates, people must be expelled from the House. I'm all for expulsion, but again, you have to prove it. And there are, of course, I also demanded to name names at first, but now you got to think about it. You got to make sure you have proof. No hearsay, and that's for the security agencies in Canada, CSIS, to do. Problem is, a lot of it's based on classified information that cannot be disclosed to the individuals in question, as those individuals would not be in position to be heard or in respect of any potential findings. So you got to remember, everything's got to be done by law. But what gets me is Canadians seem to forget that this happens, and that our MPs are always being... There's always lobby groups and special interest groups that are always trying to vie for their attention and their influence, and foreign governments love to do that too. Foreign governments get their own lobby groups to go after our parliamentarians. So intelligence agency says Iran could try to meddle in the next federal election. Well, they already are. And you think about it. Think of what's going on in the Hamas-Israeli war right now. How much of those idiotic pro-Hamas demonstrations have we seen? Where does that money come from? Because sure as hell, Hamas doesn't spend that much money here. We give money to Hamas, and what do? They blow it on weapons and terror and tunnels. Same with Hezbollah. There's somebody else at the back, behind them, giving them money too, a lot of it. You can look to Qatar, and you can look to Iran especially. The Iranians are not in good favor here because of that airline they shot down. But at the same time, their little proxies are getting their butts kicked. Hamas and Hezbollah are on the back foot. And it's not pretty for them. Iran needs the Western countries to step in and stop Israel, or Israel is going to continue to destroy Hamas and downgrade Hezbollah big time. And Iran's losing money by doing so. Every time the Israelis destroy a new weapons depot or kill another leader or in Hamas dig up another tunnel full of cash, guess what? Iran loses that money and has to send more money. So Iran would love to influence Canadian politicians or people, especially the Muslim community, which I believe they have already. I would love to know how much Iranian money has flowed into Canada to help the pro-Hamas movement. So this is one example. A foreign government trying to get a Liberal candidate defeated, and a former parliamentarian is suspected of having worked to influence parliamentary business on behalf of a foreign government. So officials did not name the country suspected, but CSIS said the list that compiled for the inquiry in July cited 7 examples of foreign interference in Canadian politics. The government of Pakistan attempting to clandestinely influence Canadian federal politics to advance its interest in Canada. What the hell would Pakistan need here, other than to allow more Pakistani students in here, or even immigration? If anything, Pakistan needs more of our money. Pakistan is a broke country. They need money, and we give a lot of foreign aid to Pakistan, which I would cut off completely. Pakistan is one of the worst countries in the world as far as human rights go. Pakistan is a home of blasphemy laws. You want to bring that kind of shit here to Canada? No, thank you. This is an Islamic country. This is why when you bring Islam into a country, it sucks. It starts to suck. Just look at Pakistan if you want to see what happens when you bring Islamic type ideals into a country. It is not good. So foreign interference that resulted in a briefing to security cleared representatives of the Liberal Party of Canada shortly before the 2020 election to Prime Minister Justin Trudeau shortly after. So the Liberals and Trudeau knew about there was going to be foreign interference but did nothing about it. Foreign government actively supporting a candidate in the 2019 Liberal nomination race in Don Valley North. Inquiry heard testimony stating that the Chinese consulate in Toronto arranged for busloads of students to vote for Liberal nomination candidate Han Dong in that riding. And that's totally true. The Chinese consulate does that even during protests. When people do protest things for Tibet or the Uyghurs, the Chinese consul will bus in international students to counter-protest. Or when we had Meng the Merciless in jail, they did the same thing. They brought students to protest her imprisonment. If anything, we should have just kicked them out once those students showed up. But again, this is why they have fake IDs and everything for these people, for these students. Government of India being suspected of using proxy agents clandestinely provided financial support to specific candidates from 3 political parties in a federal election. Well, what would that be? The Liberals, the Conservatives, the NDP, and maybe the Greens? Greens aren't powerful enough. The receipt of funds cannot be confirmed, nor the candidate's potential awareness of the origins. Again, India wants to influence the Indian communities within Canada, wherever there's a huge Indian influence. So you're looking at Vancouver, like BC, Alberta, and Toronto. We're worrying about Russia targeting Canada in the next election. Pakistan, okay, engages in foreign interference in Canada largely to support the Khalistan movement. While Iran's foreign interference is largely focused on the Iranian diaspora in Canada and Iranian dissidents. Also, they're not talking about the pro-Hamas movement. So India also influences to try and get rid of the Khalistan movement. They assassinated a few people. The way to get rid of that is stop immigration from those countries. Stop letting the international students come from those countries. One way to do it, stop the foreign aid. Downgrade their embassy and consulate staff to a bare minimum. Then it won't happen. So that one goes on to say stuff. Chinese students in Canada say they've been targeted by Beijing's campaign of fear. Student activists report being singled out for online threats and harassment. That's true. If you are from Hong Kong or Taiwan or mainland China living here in Canada as an international student or as immigrant, recent immigrant, they will go after you online. If you have family back in mainland China, so Hong Kong, mainland China, they will also go after your family. The Chinese Communist Party does not like criticism. It does not take criticism very kindly and will go after anybody. And this story talks about a guy who did that. He went to a guy named Yang who took part in pro-Chinese democracy protests in Toronto. He also founded the Assembly of Citizens, a Canada-based pro-Chinese democracy organization. And once he stopped disguising himself or hiding himself, he started receiving threats. Lots of swearing words and insults on my different social media accounts. Caused his parents, who work for the Communist Party in China, to turn against him. His own family called him a traitor and a slave. Well, why did you send him over to Canada to be a student? He's just one of them. That's another type of foreign interference. People cannot go here freely. If you have family back in those countries, they will be targeted. So I think we should keep aware that there is foreign interference, and there are ways to combat it in a clear-cut way, or lessen it, simply because of guys like this whose family is targeted. Stop immigration from mainland China, India, Pakistan, Iran. Let them deal with their own problems there. I know it sounds harsh. Do not cut off international students. I know it's a moneymaker, but maybe time to get them from somewhere else if we need them that badly. And our parliamentarians should start disclosing what lobby groups they're looking at that are funding them and their campaigns. International students should not be taking part in any part of our democratic process. If they're caught, they should be immediately expelled and sent back home without a refund. Another way is to close the consulates. Don't have so many of these consulates all over our country. But it's tricky. It's going to happen. If it's not one country, it's going to be another. The United States also influences us too, but we also try to influence them. It's tit for tat, but that makes sense because they're our close neighbors. You can't help but bump shoulders. Another thing I want to talk about was Trudeau's silence on false pet-eating immigrant claims flagrant Haitian advocates say. Because Trudeau was online and whether Canada's cats and dogs are okay. Like, seriously, why is Trudeau going on the Colbert Show? Why is he loves the attention that he gets when he's in the States. No one's booing him. And members of the Haitian community in Canada are criticizing Trudeau for not shutting down false claims that undocumented Haitian migrants are eating cats and dogs. First of all, I couldn't care less if they're eating cats and dogs. As long as it's A, not my dog, or someone's family pet. And B, I've eaten dog before. Certain countries do eat dog. It is considered a delicacy. If you go to Korea and eat dog, it's not a big deal. They also do something with cats. I'm not going to try. Other countries do eat cats and dogs. It's part of their diet. Do people eat cats and dogs in the United States and Canada? Probably, but it's not documented and not something that you're going to see. Unfortunately, they took that instead of taking the other thing, which was the town of Springfield in Ohio was overrun by Haitian immigration, and their public services are overwhelmed. So their medical service, the hospital, their small town hospital was overwhelmed, and all the resources. That was the key to that story, not cats and dogs. I remember some of the interviews with some of the residents, and then one lady said all she saw was a pig head in the park. But the fact they ran the story of dogs and cats as a sensationalization. What are these guys, the National Enquiry? I wish that the CBC people would do their due diligence and look what was actually said. Who wrote this article? Holly Cabrera, probably another woke princess that works for CBC. The real issue at the heart of the whole story with the cats and dogs and the Haitians was the fact that they were overwhelming the system in that small town. That was the clear-cut thing. Non-Americans overwhelming the health system and rising crime. I, for one, don't want to see Haitian immigration to Canada anyway, myself. I think it's a failed state. They can't govern themselves. Why bring that over here? Are they going to be able to govern themselves? Not saying that every Haitian person is bad. No, some are actually pretty nice people. If I ever met one from Haiti, Not that I can think of. They mostly stay to the French, to Quebec, because they're French speaking. But at the same time, I'm not going to judge them that way. I'm just saying that we give a lot of our taxpayer money goes to Haiti as part of foreign aid, and we have not seen a return in any kind. I would cut foreign aid off from Haiti and stop letting them in. They need to stay in their own country and start cleaning up their own goddamn mess. But that's not for me to say. But it's one of those things. Eating Trudeau. Trudeau does need to step down. The Liberals are not going to win the next election. Pure and simple. They're holding on to power. They're going to get, no matter who they pick to be their next leader, they're going to get beat badly this election. It's kind of like Mulroney and Kim Campbell. Mulroney stepped down. Kim Campbell came in and got her clock cleaned in the next election. Trudeau can either stay with us and sync with the ship. I'll give him credit for that if he does. And face the music. Or he can step down and allow someone else to try and save the Liberal Party, which I think at this point is too late. The NDP need to do the same thing with Jughead. They need to get rid of him. Yeah, they won a by-election, big deal. The seat they held in their by-election in, was it Winnipeg? Yeah, Winnipeg had been NDP for for a long time. They only lost once in the last 20 years, I think. So it's always been an NDP stronghold. It's not a big deal. It's not like you took a seat away from somebody else. Singh is not that popular in his own riding. I wish Canadians would also look into foreign interference. It doesn't happen to me because I don't get influenced by any foreign entity. But anyway, Canadians out there, let me know what you guys think of foreign interference. Should we still keep that on the forefront? Should we prosecute as soon as possible people who are guilty of this? And what ways can we minimize the threat of foreign interference in our elections? Leave comments in the comment section. Hit the like button, subscribe if you're new to the channel. Until next time, this has been the Great White North Report.